I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be perception versus reality. Well, I've got actually 5 emails that I'm going to go through today. And most of them are pretty short. One's a little bit longer than the others, but they bring up some good points on how guys are perceiving themselves and how the women or the people that they're interacting with are actually perceiving them. But before we get into it, I got a quote I'd like to share with you. And as I go through these, I want you to remember what I said in the quote because it'll really help you get some perspective on things. It says, the best way to affect how others perceive you in a positive way is to be true to yourself. When you act like a chameleon by constantly changing your approach and how you interact with others based upon what you want, instead of simply being yourself and living your truth, you'll most often feel uncomfortable and unsure of who you really are. If you are unsure of yourself and you're inconsistently being authentic, you'll have a hard time getting others to act consistently and predictably with you. And one of the things I want to say is, before, when I went to lunch today, I actually went to the store and I got myself a nice, healthy turkey sub to have. And when I was in the checkout, because I'm a friendly person by nature. And it's like, so wherever I go, I'm friendly and I'm talkative. Now, anybody that knew me in high school, if you were asking, they always say, God, you were always so quiet. Obviously, until I got a few beers in me when I was in high school. But I was very shy and reserved back then. But obviously, over the years, through being involved in the sales industry and different customer service type of positions, I became good at developing my social skills and striking up conversations with people. And it's just something that I do 100% of the time. It's not like I'm friendly to people just because I see a pretty girl and I want to talk to her. It's I'm friendly regardless. And so as I'm checking out, a woman gets behind me, and I hadn't even noticed her. And I turn around, she's really beautiful. She had, in her cart, she had her little, she had a baby, looked like a one-year-old little girl, in her, what do you call it, in her little baby basket that kind of has a handle on it. And she had this big pile of crab legs. And so, because I'm always using my environment to strike up conversations, and I'm just curious about people in general, I said to her, were you having a party or something? And she says, oh, my family and I were all getting together, and that's what they just like to eat for football. And so I said, well, how do you prepare them? And so she proceeds to tell me that she puts them in the oven. They bake them with butter and some other things because the legs are actually already pre-cooked when you buy them. And so we chatted about that for 3 or 4 minutes, and I really didn't say a lot during that conversation because a lot of guys are always going, what do I say? What do I say to a woman? What do I say to a woman? Well, most women by nature are very talkative, and they love to give their opinions on things. And so when I asked a simple thing like, how do you prepare those? She went on for about 2 or 3 minutes telling me her recipe and how she goes about it and how she prepares it and how much everybody loves them. Obviously, she was married, and she was beautiful, but hey, I'm just friendly to everybody. And that's just the way you should be wherever you go, not only to women that you find attractive, but just people in general. Because you never know when you're going to turn around and there's going to be a woman like that there, and she's going to be single, she's not going to have a baby with her. And it's just, if you're naturally in the habit of doing those things, and all you have to do is ask a few questions, because not everybody's going to be friendly like that. Because sometimes I'll strike up a conversation and she won't have very much to say, and that's just the way it is. Some people are really friendly and some people are not. And that can give you a good gauge because the women who tend to be talkative and outgoing or who like you are going to go on and on about things. They're not going to just give you a one sentence or one word answer. And if you're just in a checkout line and you don't have any attachment one way or another to any kind of particular outcome, that's the best way to be in those situations. So let's get into the first guy's email here. He says, hey Corey, you're better than any psychologist, and all those psychologists and counselors talk about theoretical stuff, but you talk about reality. Thank you for that, and also thank you for using correct words like bullshit, fuck, etc. He says, I found it very humorous and it sounds gentle the way you say it. Well, I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a counselor, I'm a coach. He says, anyways, I'm unhappily married and I'm very motivated while my wife is not motivated at all. Well, I know what that's like. I dated a woman years ago who I loved a lot. She was a great girl. But part of the thing that really irritated me about her over the years as we were together is that she was constantly talking about things that she was going to do. She was going to change job. She was working in an industry, an insurance industry, and she says, "Oh, I want to do hair for a living," because her cousin did hair. But she never changed jobs. She never did. It was like this went on for like years. And, or she's going to start a workout program. And not only was she like that, it was like everybody in her family was. And I'm the type of guy, when I decide I'm going to do something, I just take action and I go and do it. And when you date somebody who's like the exact opposite, after a few years, it starts to grate on your nerves a little bit. So I can understand how you feel about that. Like attracts like. And those are some of the things that you really need to look at before you get married to somebody. And obviously in this particular case, he says, "I'm also successful on a career level, but I have one problem." And this is where his perception comes in. He says, "I am short and I honestly don't know how girls think of me." He says, "But I feel ignored all the time." He says, "At least that's what I feel." Well, your perception is your reality. And so in your mind, your self-talk, you're already presupposing that no woman's going to want you because you feel that you're too short. And the interesting thing is a lot of the actors and actresses in Hollywood a lot of them are really short. A lot of the guys that you see, like Tom Cruise, he's not a very tall guy, and he doesn't have a problem getting very beautiful, attractive women. Obviously, if it doesn't bother you, it won't bother her. And this is where I talk about acting and behaving with who you are consistently. Because if you consistently really don't give a fuck, sure, there's going to be some women that aren't going to like you because you're short, but at the end of the day, who fucking cares? As long as you love yourself and you value yourself. You're already married at this point, so obviously at least one woman loved you enough as you were in all of your shortness to want to marry you. He says, "How can I improve my self-esteem, and most importantly, how do I change the dynamics in my life?" Well, the key is to act more consistently with who you are and what you want instead of, because in reality what you're kind of asking me is, "Corey, who do I need to change into in order to get women to love me because of the fact that I'm short?" You need to be who you are. And when you have a problem with something, it affects the words that come out of your mouth. It's just like the girl I was talking about, or the woman I was talking about is married, and I was chatting with her in the grocery store. If I had the perception that all women don't like me and I'm ugly, I wouldn't have said anything to her. And I would have just looked over and she wasn't friendly to me, so yep, of course, all women don't like me. And that would have been my perception. But my attitude is, I'm an awesome guy, I'm handsome, and everybody loves to chat with me. Even if it happens to be a married woman. Just having a normal conversation, it's not a big deal. So let's go into the second email I got here. This guy says, "Hey coach, thanks for all of the help. I'm learning and trying to become the best man that I can be." Well, that's all you can really do. At the end of the day, it's just like any professional athlete. They're focused on one thing, and that is trying to get a little bit better each day. And that's all you can really do in life. As long as you give it your best shot, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to attract women, not all of them are going to like you. As a matter of fact, when I look back over the past couple of weeks, and I've been just kind of noticing this because I love noticing human behavior, but if I see a woman, I think she's really attractive, even if I can tell she's not really that into me the way she's looking at me, I'm still going to ask, because if on a scale of 1 to 10, if her interest is like a 5, and I'm just barely got a chance with her, I'm going to go ahead and ask. And I was looking at those women that I found really attractive and I wanted to ask out versus women that I noticed that were making it obvious that they were interested in me by the way they looked at me and the way they smiled. I noticed it was kind of 50-50. In other words, it's like half the women that I had interest in that weren't really showing much interest was kind of proportionally equal to the number of women that I wasn't really that into, but I could tell they were really into me. And it's just really a numbers game. And you can't get offended because it's just a matter of time. You got to get through the no's in order to get to the yeses until you come across somebody that says yes to you. And even at the end of the day, you see guys on the internet that are doing videos of themselves going and getting phone numbers. Where a lot of pickup artists are great at getting phone numbers, but they never tend to talk about what happens after that. Maybe they hook up with a girl 1 or 2 times, but they never talk about a relationship or somebody that they're dating consistently. Because a lot of women that will give you phone numbers, they'll just give you the phone number to get rid of you. So at the end of the day, you can't take these things personally. Because if you're like most guys that tend to be watching this, all you really need is one really great girl that you connect with on all levels. And until that connection happens, have fun dating, but keep looking. Don't get caught up and hung up on a chick who's mediocre or not what you really want. Again, remember, the divorce rate's 65% now. He says, but one thing in your book I didn't understand is I know women want someone who is emotionally strong, but what is strength really? It's the courage to be yourself and not give a fuck. Because not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to want to hang out with you. Not everybody's going to want to become your customer. Not everybody that you want to work for is going to want you to work for them. It's just a part of life. With the average person, they get hung up on those little details or those little rejections. And they think, oh, I'm never going to find anybody, so let me settle. Let me go for something that's less than what I really want. And all you end up doing is making yourself miserable. Like the guy in the previous email, it sounds like he married somebody he really wasn't that into. And now he's looking to get out of that relationship. He's still in it, but now he's kind of looking around. But the reason he's staying in it is because he thinks, oh, well, I'm too short and nobody's going to like me. It's amazing. Like for me, that's what when I was married, if you've read my book, the reason I married this girl, my first wife in the first place, was because I was fearful that I'd never meet anybody that loved me as much as she did. And this is way before I learned all the stuff about attraction and dating and relationships that I know now. And I was really fearful, and it was really hard to leave her. But, a year or two after that, I was really glad that I did. Because to be in a relationship like that, where you're not really into her, and you have kids and that, a lot of people do that. And it's just a bad way to go in life. He says, if you're too stubborn and unwilling to change, you can come off as a dick. But if you're too lenient, you are weak. How do you find the right level of strength in your life? Like what I like to say is 10% of the time, you're a naughty boy. You tend to say things that are a little kind of over on the edge, the kind of thing where a woman would go, did he just say that? He didn't. She's not really sure whether you're just fucking with her or you're being serious. But 90% of the time, you're the charming James Bond. You're a good listener. You ask questions. You lead the conversation to where you want to go. So it's just a matter of, to get to that place is you got to practice. And it's like the things that I teach is you got to practice it over and over and over. Repetition is the mother of skill. Just like Aristotle said thousands of years ago, excellence is not a singular act, but a habit. You are what you do repeatedly. So let's get in the next email here. He says, hey Corey, first of all, I'd like to thank you for changing my life and bringing back the fun into dating and bringing me some hope into future long-term relationships. I was very skeptical about long-term relationships and marriage, but you have brought back the hope and the possibility of creating a long-lasting and loving relationship. For all this, I am forever grateful, and you're truly a great human, and we appreciate the knowledge you have freely bestowed on us. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. He says, I'm enjoying dating and pickup at the minute. He says, I got 3 different dates in one day thanks to your help. It's like sometimes that's how it happens. If you've ever watched, Simple Pickup, I think. That's all those guys do. It's a bunch of college kids, and they're doing, they go walk around their college campus asking girls out. And you'll notice most of the time, they get rejected. It's just a numbers game. And even though they get phone numbers, now those girls are going to want to go out with them because some women give out their number just to get rid of you. But that's how it goes. It's like sometimes you'll be asking one woman after another out, and they'll have boyfriends or they're not interested. And then like you'll have a day where it's like you get 3 dates in one day, and it'll just like boom, boom, boom. It seems like you can do no wrong, and that's just how it works. Like when I was in real estate, it was the same thing. We used to get hundreds and hundreds of phone calls every month, and sometimes you might go through 100 phone calls just to get one person that was ready, willing, and able to buy a house. And then you go through the next batch of 50 phone numbers and you get 10 people. It's just the ebb and flow of the universe, and you can't take that shit personally. Like I was saying earlier, is it's guys get into those habits where they have a bunch of failures or rejections and they think, oh, that's just the way it's always going to be. That's why you got to keep moving forward. You got to keep grinding it out, even when you don't feel like it. He says, I've been looking up some flirting techniques, and so what do you make of the push-pull technique, and what would you recommend? Obviously, push-pull, I assume you're referring to where you start chatting with a woman, and then you start backing away from either the conversation, or you start physically backing away. Maybe you talk to her, then you go on about your life. The idea is that like these techniques are more to help a guy get into the ebb and flow of being authentic. And at the end of the day, it's just like what I was talking about with the gal I was chatting with about the crab legs in line. Not all women are going to be that talkative and go on for 3 or 4 minutes about their recipe and how they prepare crab legs. Not all of them are going to be that friendly. And part of the idea is that when you're interacting with a woman is you want to notice how much is she participating in this conversation with me. How much is she making the effort to carry the conversation? Is she asking me questions? Is she enthusiastic about the conversation? And all too often, a lot of guys, because they're so worried about keeping the conversation going by talking, they never really get to that point. So it's like by asking questions and seeing how their responses are and looking at their body language, and you can kind of back off a little bit after you ask a question and let them talk, see if they reach out and touch your arm when you say something stupid, trying to be funny, and you know it's not really that funny, and they laugh at you. Those are the things you really want to notice, because at the end of the day, the more you practice these things, that's the way a normal conversation goes. Sometimes you're talking, sometimes the other person is talking, and it just comes through practice and repetition, and it's really nice, especially like when you ask an opinion about, like I said, today I was asking an opinion about crab legs. Why? Because she had a big bundle of them on the conveyor belt. It was just an easy thing to have a conversation about. But I could go in there tomorrow to the same place or a different place and have the same similar conversation about something that they're checking out or that they're buying, and the woman might be single, she might be beautiful, she might be really super interested in me. Or I could go in tomorrow and do the same kind of thing, or maybe I'm in the same store a few days from now and somebody else got crab legs and I ask her that question. And I say, well, how do you prepare them? Oh, I put butter and put them in the oven. And that's all they say. You can't take that shit personally. What you really think about it, if you're going to spend a lot of time with somebody, you want to be with somebody that you actually like hanging out with, somebody that participates, someone that's talkative, someone that's outgoing. You want to be the one carrying the conversation and being responsible for the whole part of it. It takes two to make a great relationship work where there's lots of chemistry. So it's like, take your time. It doesn't have, Rome wasn't built in a day. Who cares if it takes you 6 months to find a really great girl? What if it takes you 2 years? So what? You can have fun all along the way. You're going to meet women, you're going to hook up. And some of the women that you're going to hook up with and sleep with, you're not going to want to have a relationship. You might meet a girl and you might be really into her, and after spending a night or two with her, you might think, God, it's like this chick's really boring, or she doesn't really have much going on in her life, or she's just not a lot of fun to be around, or she's really negative and she's really pessimistic, and I don't like that. It's like, that's why, like I said, repetition is the mother of skill. You have to practice this stuff. Don't just wait for the ultimate woman to come along and then expect that everything's going to flow like butter like that. Because if you don't practice, then you'll just freeze up when those good opportunities come along. And those are rare and special. And it sucks when you screw one of those up. And how do I know? I get emails from guys like that all the time. And I used to feel that way years ago when I was in that place. So let's go to the next email. The guy says, hey, Corey, I love your emails. And I have a question. It's something that's got me in trouble before, intentionally or not. Female drama. I don't know if it's because of the politically correct world we're in now, but it seems that the word of a woman has taken over the word of a man a lot more than it used to be. Well, especially like in the office, like when it comes to sexual harassment and stuff like that, they automatically assume that the guy is in the wrong, and you'll get fired. I mean, you see that stuff in the news all the time about guys that say something innocuous and the woman says, hey, this is sexual harassment, and boom, he's out the door on his ass. He says, I'm really not going into the detail of what happened, but some woman basically accused me of trying to steal her personal information. I wasn't at work, but this is a woman who I worked with before, and we were extremely friendly up to this incident. All I said to her during a random catching up on conversation was that her daughter-in-law's last name, which she had freely told me before when I asked her, and she had said it to me several times before. But since she couldn't remember telling me that, and her best friends also never remember her telling her daughter-in-law's last name, she automatically assumed I was doing something suspicious. Then she had a witness who wasn't present at the whole situation write a BS incident report along with her. The witness made up a whole bunch of dramatic garbage in her report. Remember what I said, perception is reality. What this tells me is these two women, they didn't like you very much. And they were out to get you. And because they didn't like you, it sounds like they dramatically overreacted to what actually happened. He says, both said that I acted extremely nervous during the situation when I was questioned on how I knew that last name, which is complete bullshit because I was extremely calm the whole time thinking and saying someone's last name could be a big deal. They also made up shit like I yelled out the last name to everyone present. During the incident, I calmly explained to this woman when she asked me how I knew this last name, and she seemed to readily accept my explanation. No harm, no foul, right? When I heard that, he says, wrong, when I heard reports were filed, he says, I now know that she is in an emotional tizzy because her son was getting divorced from that daughter-in-law, and that daughter-in-law had lived with her at one time and used her personal information, credit cards, etc. Maybe she felt like I in some way had access to her personal information. Yeah, I could see where this is. It tells me obviously you didn't have a strong, your perception of how solid your friendship with this woman obviously wasn't really that solid. And obviously I can see from her perception, she's got a family member that's divorcing this daughter-in-law, and I guess there was an issue with credit cards and stuff, and so that's in her mind. And so you can see her perception is her reality. You perceived that you were better friends than you really were, and she was obviously going through a situation where someone had stolen some of her information, and so she just automatically assumed the worst. And like I said, perception's reality. And like I said, in this particular case, you got two women who are like, hey, you did something inappropriate, and a lot, unfortunately, that's kind of the after effects of the feminist movement. It's just automatically the guy is assumed to be the one that's doing the wrong. Now, why is that? Well, when you look back 30, 40, 50 years ago, guys used to sexually harass the shit out of women at work and pretty much in everyday life, and they could get away with it, and it was acceptable. Let's get into the final email. Guy says, hey coach, I have a short question. You say when a girl changes the terms of your relationship to walk away and tell her that, call me if you change your mind. My question is, when she calls you, say in 2 to 3 weeks, you should take the opportunity to set a date. You might say to her, we should meet, have some drinks, etc. But should you also mention something that only as lovers, not as friends? Absolutely not. Because if you've walked away from it and she's reaching out to you, you should assume that she wants to see you and make a date, hang out, have fun, and hook up. Because you told her the last time that you were with her, hey, I'm not interested in being friends, but give me a call if you change your mind. And so 2 or 3 weeks later, remember perception. Your perception is, oh, she's reaching out to me. What do I say all the time? If a woman's calling you or texting you or emailing or messaging you, what does that mean? She wants to see you. That's how you should perceive it. But obviously this particular guy, he's in a fearful state. He's assuming the worst. And because he's assuming the worst, he's grabbing on or latching on to little things he may have seen in other videos and things that are totally unrelated. And it's affecting his ability to just do something really simple. He's overcomplicating, he's overthinking things. He says, because as you told, she will put you in friend zone after you walk away. She will test you and try to convince you to go as friends. Hang out, have fun, hook up. That's the whole point of it. If you invite her over to your place for dinner, if she reaches out to you and you're like, hey, great to hear from you. I'd love to see you. When are you free to get together? Great. How about Thursday, 8 o'clock, my place? Grab a bottle of wine, come on over, we'll make dinner together. It's pretty obvious if this was your former girlfriend or your former lover that what's going to happen? Hang out, have fun, hook up. That's the whole part. At some point when she's playing with her hair, she's touching your arm, you're gonna go for the kiss and you're gonna make out. Making out leads to heavy petting. Heavy petting leads to hooking up on the couch or in your bedroom or maybe in the kitchen. So when she calls, should we mention that let's meet as lovers, not as friends? Absolutely. It's unnecessary. He says, or don't mention anything. Yeah, don't mention anything. He says, just meet her and see what happens. It's not that you see what happens, and that tells me again, because you're in a fearful state, you're feeling like you got to wait for her to do all of the initiating. You've got to be the leader. You're the one that's invited her over to your place. When the signs are there that she's ready to be kissed, where she's touching you, or she's standing so close to the point where she's literally bumping into you, it's easy to just put your arms around her, pull her in, and go for the kiss. If you wait for something to happen, guess what? Nothing will happen. He says, is it possible that you meet her and she will act like just your friend, and when you want to kiss her and make a move as a lover, she say, I told you that we are just friends? It's possible, but not likely. You've invited her over to your house. You're going to do something in the evening. Now, if you were to make a date to go to lunch or to go to a movie or something like that, because the idea is that you make a date, something that can obviously lead to you having sex at her place or your place. And if she says, I told you that we're just friends, then if you're in a situation like that and you go for the kiss, she says, we're just friends, you say, look, I told you I'm not interested in that. And if you came over here just assuming that we're just going to be friends, then I'm not interested in that. And so if you're only interested in being friends, then, let's call it a night. And it was nice seeing you again. But, I meant what I said. It's like, don't call me or come over here unless you're interested in being more than just friends. We don't have to get back together, but I want to hang out, have fun, and make love to you. I miss you. I miss those things. I've never been in a situation where I had a woman come back over after we had broken up and we had hooked up and everything, and it was just friends like that when I wanted something more to happen. So this is just part of your fear interfering with your ability to take on board what I say to you and act naturally and act appropriately. He says I'm in that situation. She changed the terms and she put me in friend zone. I walked away and I told her I'm not interested. But I know that she will call me soon and I don't know how to tell her that I want to see her, but just as we were before. Again, you already told her that. You said I'm not interested in just being friends. Give me a call if you change your mind. She calls you 2 or 3 weeks later. What are you going to presuppose? Hey, all women want me, right? So you presuppose that the reason she's calling me is because she changed her mind and now she's open to being more than just friends. Now, if you were to call her after you told her that, then she's going to think and she's going to try to keep you in friend zone. And that's why I say you got to walk and never look back. That's the strongest negotiating position. He says, I'm afraid, again, he's in a fearful state, that I will meet her and she will give me that BS with friends when I try to make a move as a lover. What should I do? Should I meet her and see what happens and then walk away again if she hasn't changed her mind? Well, like I said, if she reaches out to you after 2 or 3 weeks when you told her I'm not interested in being friends, and then you make a dinner date at your place in the evening, the kind of things that you used to do all the time in the past when you were together and you made love, obviously, just like Gerald Celente says, current events tend to form future trends. So if she's going to come over to your place, you should assume that she's there because she wants you and act accordingly. But if for some reason she does the unexpected thing that you tend to fear, which is that she's only going to come over and try to be your friend, then you got to reiterate to her what you wanted and tell her, hey, well, let's I think let's call it a night. I told you I'm not interested in being friends, and I don't want to hear from you again unless you're interested in being more than just friends. And that's it. But like I said, I seriously doubt that will happen to you, because if 2 or 3 weeks, because remember, she's reaching out to you. She's calling you, and you're inviting her over for a date. You don't have to say it's a date. It's just obviously bringing a bottle of wine, making dinner together in the evening, duh. And it's like, how many times did you hook up and do those kinds of things when you were together before? I mean, think about it. It's amazing to see how this guy's mind is totally clouded by fear, and it's impacting his ability to just take the simple things that I teach and just apply it. He's all worried about this, he's worried about that, instead of just hang out, have fun, hook up. Keep it really simple. So if you'd like to get my help personally with a situation or a challenge you're having, the quickest way is to book a paid phone coaching session. You can do that by going to my website, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions for booking a paid phone coaching session with yours truly. And I will talk to you soon.